Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's October 26th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and another big sell-off day. Uh, and you can see here on the daily chart, we shot well through the oversold lower band of the envelope. We shot right through that support as well, right there. We'll probably pull back and test that before we go lower, if we're going to go lower. We're overdue for some kind of correction here. We may just work sideways. There's a lot of negativity in the market right now. Wouldn't take much over in the Middle East to set off a super sell-off here. So, it doesn't mean we can't go lower. I'm guessing at this channel, um, we did bounce off this line here, which is the midline of the original range. Actually, we didn't quite get to it. We really kind of bounced off this, what I suspect may be this lower line. I originally had it a little higher. Now I'm guessing it's right in here. That does kind of place it above this other swing. I think I spoke about that yesterday, that usually it's just above a previous swing. So it could be even more like that right there, and we still would have bounced off of it. So it might even be like that, but usually it's kind of off the swing, so that would kind of make sense, and we did bounce off that. So we might have bottomed out here. We've gapped up this morning, or at 5 o'clock when we reopened. So we'll see what happens. Just be careful trading this market, especially if you go long, because no matter what you do, make sure that you put your stops in the right place, and you don't give the market extra room, because you could really get hurt right now. This market, when you get really oversold, it doesn't take much to get a strong rally, even if it's only temporary, and it wouldn't take but just a small amount of crazy news out of the Middle East to send this thing straight to the bottom. So just be really careful. Don't take any chances. Don't always have your stops in place. You should be doing that anyway. But just a reminder that it's kind of a really particular problematic time. I'm searching for the words here. I'm having a hard time finding them. But just know that the fuse is lit, and we could have an explosion at any time. Maybe it's a dud, maybe it's not. So you just have to be careful. But on the other hand, when you get into these very oversold areas here, when the market starts rallying a little bit, sometimes it'll rally really hard and fast, because people start short covering and taking their profits. They don't want to give their profits back, and so the market just gets really nervous. And so right now the market is super nervous, both to the downside because we're way oversold, but also to the upside because we got a lot of negative news and possible war going on. So it's just be careful. That's enough about that. You can see a very negative day here. We closed a little off the lows, but let's flip over to the 2000 tick intraday chart and take a look at it and go through the trade. Okay, here's our 2000 tick chart. Real quickly, it's Thursday, so this will wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. So this will wrap up the week, and won't be back until Monday. But mostly sideways early on, and then just before lunch we kind of sold off here. We didn't quite make a measured move based on the range. I didn't measure the actual leg here. Let's take a look at that and see how close we came. Pretty close to a measured move. So you want to measure it both ways. I'm surprised we didn't make a measured move, but I think it's just because we hit this support level right. There's some support right across here, and that's where we kind of held for the rest of the day. That's that support on the daily chart that I showed you, the dark blue line that we had shot through but closed above. So just keep that in mind. But 2 legs down. Really we were sideways and then 2 legs down, and then we rallied, and again they start short covering here, and then all of a sudden they run selling comes back and it just rockets back down real quickly, and then we've opened and kind of headed higher from there. So, but let's zoom in here. You had some 7:30 news this morning, so I didn't see anything really. You really need to be flat by 7:15 or so with this red stuff. So you really didn't get a chance to trade until after maybe about 7:30. Things had kind of, you can see things are kind of settling down, just basically going sideways. So if you get an opportunity to trade this, you can. I don't really see anything. It's just you can't really go long there, and then we're sideways again. You don't want to go short yet. You're in an uptrend. We finally get a little failed breakout, and it does confirm that trend line. The signal bar is not perfect. It is 2 legs down, so it's a second entry long. It's right off the key entry point. It confirms the trend line, way away from the EMA. There's reasons to like that trade. It's just not a perfect signal bar, so I made it green. If you want to be a little aggressive, that's where you want to do it. The better trade is to wait, and a few minutes later you get a failed second entry short here. It breaks lower and turns up. You got plenty of room back to here. Really to the highs is what you're looking at. Again, it's right off the key entry point. I don't know if I'd wait till this closed. Maybe. I mean, you still probably have room there. So I just don't think you could have gotten in. Yeah, you got enough room there, but I don't think you could get in it because it gaps over and takes off. So I don't know if you'd have got in that or not. And then finally you get a break. We actually turned down right at the highs, the overnight highs here. And notice you get 2 legs down and a failed second entry here. You're kind of expecting that prices may attempt to make a new high, but the range could have taken precedence, and this is probably going to trap longs here. So I like that for just a scalp at the very least. I did make it green because it's a little bit aggressive, but I tend to like it because it's going to trap people, that failure. And these are more advanced, so if you hadn't been doing this long, don't worry about failures because they'll just trip you up and you'll just lose money. There's a reason I don't teach them in the manual, or they're more advanced. You need to be a skilled chart reader, and most people learning are not skilled enough to trade these. So I'll talk about them because there are some traders that are good enough to trade them now. So I'll have them added in there, but don't trade them if you're not skilled. I'm sorry, I had a small interruption there, but yeah, I like that one. Turns out to be a pretty good trade. Runs down, it comes back. There's another failure here coming back the other way, but we're just going sideways. There's just a big sideways. You can see how flat the EMA is. Prices bouncing above and below it. You're not looking for reversals. You just got to kind of play these short-term trends. And I really played this as a retest. Prices are probably trying to retest the high after 2 legs of correction there. And if they break through, you could get another measured leg up, but it doesn't turn out that way. It turns out we got a range. I don't see any chance to short this. I didn't like this long here, on the higher low, because it's too congested there. So just in case anybody asks, and you get a lower high, but the signal bar is no good. We drop on down, and you finally get a triple test here. This has moved a little bit. I think it's more like that right there. So you get a triple test, nice signal bar right at the key entry point. It's really 2 legs back. It's not a true second entry, but it's still 2 legs back, and it's a triple test. The 2 legs alone, I don't know if I would take this trade alone, but when you get the triple test there with the nice signal bar, just take that, especially since it's at the key entry point and the EMA. That turns out to be a really nice trade. We bounce again, you get a close outside. There's a second entry here. I didn't mark this. A lot of times people look at this. It's not 2 legs back. You made a higher low here. You might look at that as a lower high, but it's really moved a long way to be a lower high. So I think you're better off to wait and just see what else happens. We just end up going sideways here. So you're trying to make a new high here. It's almost tempting to go long, but we're in a trend here, and we're trying to make a retest, but you might make a retest of this high. So that's look how flat the EMA is there as well. So it's really hard to know, hey, are we going lower here for the retest on the second entry? Or are we going higher for a retest on the high for a second entry long? You got a combination of both of them there. So it's really hard to know what's going on. So I'm hesitant to take that, especially as flat as that is, and as you see what happens, it would have failed on you. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have got out of that. It may be close. Yeah, so you'd have failed, one tick failure there, and you just end up chopping sideways. Maybe you take this short. You got your resistance right there. Fairly bearish, and we've been running from top to bottom. So maybe you take that and you just keep chopping around. Again, there's a long here with a pretty good signal bar, but we're trying to go lower here, and the lows are down here, much further down here if this is a range. So, and we still are making lower highs, lower lows. Notice that's a lower high than the lower low, lower high than that one. So we end up just kind of chopping around, but I just think it's too risky there, and I don't see anything else in there I like. You do get a failed breakout here again. Not really looking for longs here. Close outside new high. There's a hidden second entry there, and that does look like two legs up. So if you notice that, maybe you take that right there. You're better off to wait on the lower high, and then the lower high comes right here, but that just looks congested. Again, I can't, I'm just not crazy about it. So I marked it green, but I'm not crazy about it. Turns out to be a nice move. Get a close outside, new low, and then you're racing higher here. You have a failure here and a second entry long. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry, and you got a new long. That's a second entry long. So maybe you take that. I marked it green. Again, I'm not crazy about it. I mean, that's the thing. You rock it one way and then you rock it in the next, and this is hard trading. It's really hard to know if you're going to get a true reversal or not. So just wait on the best trades. I mean, it's tempting to go short right here, but look how congested that is. You are a long way away from the EMA, so that's probably why it's congested. This one broke higher and then turned down. That's not a bar I'd be afraid to take on the engulfing bar, but the lows of the last few bars are just right here, so you could get trapped there. Again, it's one you might mark green. Again, this is just too sideways and too congested looking. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just the lower high doesn't really have a good signal bar anyway. Then it looks kind of like a triple test, but it's still congested. You're closing above the EMA, and you just don't really get a chance to trade this all the way down here. And then we're going sideways again. And once again, you just have a first entry, although it looks like a failure there. So I'm not really crazy about that one. You do get a second entry short here. Notice that you get the first entry, then it tries to go higher. So decent signal bar, the 2-bar matching eye. Maybe you take that. There's enough room to get out. Again, I'm not crazy about it. It's a strong downtrend, but we just came off the lows. We're struggling to go low. I mean, the markets, prices want to go here, but they can't really go higher. And so you're just kind of duking it out. A lot of people are just sitting on the sidelines here, waiting to see if we get back to this key entry point. And so I think it's dangerous going short there. You can see you did test the low, and then you kind of corrected back sideways to slightly up back to the trend line. And you finally get here, and it's right at the resistance area across there. It's not really a second. You might look at that as a double bottom, so maybe you call that a first entry, but really you're just trading this as off the support, off the range. You got double resistance behind you there, and so nice signal bar. It's right at the original key entry point, so maybe you go short there. Turns out to be a pretty good trade. And then, of course, we did finally get to the bottom here. Again, I don't think you can't go long underneath here without acting as resistance now. The support acting as resistance. It does break on through, but if it would have broke above that bar, maybe. But when you get this inside bar here, it's just way too congested. Don't take that trade. Comes up, then we're kind of stuck at the midline. Finally gets back up to the highs again and gives us another bearish bar. I like that when it gives you that 2-bar matching high and a fairly decent signal bar. I like that just to try to ride it back down again. Plus, it's the first close outside the khaki channel, so the odds are we're going to try to make a retest here. Even if it finds support here and can't get through, we're probably going to make a retest all the same. So I like that trade right there. And that turns out to be a pretty good move. You get a lower high here, but you can't go low right into that support. Turns out to be a good trade, but you can't take it. Then we're just chopping sideways. There's another touch of the trend line here, but it's right into that support. So I don't like going short there. Too risky. We finally get a close outside the blue. This is the retest, but since it lasted so long, you go ahead and draw your channel. When I say retest, it's the retest of the low off this khaki channel. But when it lasts that long, go ahead and draw your channel because it'll probably play out again. And of course, you get your break here. Don't look for any longs yet. You get a close outside, 2 legs to a new high. I don't like going short there. This one is tempting, but again, it's so congested. There's not really enough room to get out between here and those lows. I'd have more likely taken this trade than this one. But I really don't like either one of them because you see this one doesn't go very far. This one takes off, but at first it fails and comes back before it goes lower, and you don't really get another setup. You get a second entry here, but signal bar is no good. Then no, you can't enter in that. We do get a close outside, but just an inside bar. You could call that a second entry. The support's too close. It fails and takes off. And then finally you're chopping around here and you finally get a triple test here with a decent signal bar with room to get out between here and you just kind of go into the upper side of the range here. But there's clearly a triple test there and you're making lower highs as well. That's also a second entry short. Not the greatest signal bar, but closes bearish enough. And we're just looking to ride it to here. And if you get more out of it, then great, which you do. You end up getting a lot more out of it. And you get another second entry here, but signal bar is no good. Finally, it moves this measured move based on, notice when it broke out the highs, it moved a measured move. When it broke out the lows, it moved a little further than a measured move and then quickly got back inside and makes a higher low there. I like taking that one just to ride it back to the EMA. And if it turns out this is the bottom or a failed break lower, you might get a lot more. And indeed, you do get more out of this. You get a break here, move to a new high. There's a second entry long here, but the signal bar is no good. You've already made a new high as well, so you really need a good setup here. You just can kind of continue chopping up. You do get a trend line, and then finally you get a second entry right at the key entry point with the EMA. Nice signal bar. That's a great place to enter. Unfortunately, it doesn't really take off. It just comes back and retests the breakout, which notice when we came through the support here, we never tested it. Prices will almost always come back and test that, even if they're going to go lower first. So anyway, runs on up, retest that. Looks like it's going to turn down, but you get a break, and you also get a break of the blue. You got this coming back. You get a close outside, then you move to a new low. That's the first break of the blue channel 2. You did get an overshoot, so that leads you to believe you'll probably get a break real soon, and you might get a reversal, but a lot of times you'll just get a break on that. It depends on how big the overshoot is and how big the trend is. But this one, it's kind of one of those, you're probably going to go back up and retest this again. And I marked it green because it's a little risky. You're better off to wait on a high or low, and you just never really get one. There's no high or low in there that's tradable. And then you're chopping along again here. You don't really want to go short in here, and I don't see any longs either. Breaks out, and there's nothing there I would want to trade. There's a possibility of a short here, but I listed this as an overshoot, but maybe it's not. If you move it on up there, it doesn't really look like an overshoot, and so you could bounce at this midline again. So we do have a break here at a new high, so that's why I was hesitant to think that's an overshoot or a two-tiered channel, but I think it was a two-tiered channel, and you still already had a break, but you got a leg up and then another leg up that was. This is just probably short covering is what this probably is. People are saying, hey, I better take it. Just keeps going higher, and so more people take their profit, and it kind of keeps pushing higher and higher, and that attracts a few more longs, and then by the time they attract a few longs in there, all of a sudden it reverses because the short covering stops, and then you run out of boom, and the bottom falls out. So you might take that trade right here. It does break higher and turn down. It's engulfing. So that makes it look congestive, but maybe you take that. Drops on down, and quickly you get a first entry, second entry. It looks a little sideways and congested, but there's enough room to this low, so I like taking that one. You're probably going. That's your first break here, so you're probably going to make a new low, and you may even come back down to this low, and you never know. It may make a trend, and it could keep going. It's a little late in the day, but anyway, and it bounces once, twice. You get a failure there, but that's too congested. Don't take that at right into the 2:30 hour, and I mean that's really tempting on a second entry there, but it's right at the support anyway, and it's well into 2:30. So not a lot of trades today, a lot of green ones because it's just so mixed. And you're just racing in one direction, and then you're turning and racing. Now, this is hard trading, and you got to be really careful. That's what I'm talking about. Make sure you put your stops where they go. Don't give the market any extra room because you'll probably regret it. Live to fight another day if you get it wrong. And don't be afraid to walk away on days like this. Just pack up and call it a day if you're struggling or if you're finding it hard to find trades or if you really just can't read the price action because you need to be skilled to read this. Because it's not easy to read this. So we had the gap. I didn't talk about that. I really thought maybe we were going to try to fill that gap here, and I'm surprised we got that close and didn't fill it, but that tells you how negative the market is. We couldn't even fill that gap. Notice we closed here yesterday and opened down here today, so couldn't read that gap. Couldn't fill that gap. But anyway, that's how I saw it today. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm done for today, done for this week. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.